This check is suspicious. Security, remove him!
Call the issuing office. Verify it now. Mr. Brooks, the board has been waiting for you.
The sound loud, exactly, but clean and final, the dry rip of thick paper tearing beneath Rebecca Harlan's hands. Conversations stopped across the marble lobby of Northbridge National the teller line, unaware that every person in the room had turned toward the same counter. Rebecca looked down at the two halves of the $4 million check as though she had just removed something dangerous from circulation. Then she slid both pieces into a clear document sleeve and pressed her palm over it. "This instrument will remain with the bank pending investigation," she said. Her voice carried accustomed, polished being obeyed. Marcus stood opposite her in a faded navy jacket, his hands resting open on the counter. He had learned years ago that calm was not enough for a black man in a room where someone had already decided he was a threat. Sometimes calm itself was treated shoulders loose anyway. Beside him, Maya stared at the corner of the check that had slipped from the sleeve and landed near her shoe. She bent slightly, but Marcus touched her arm. He said quietly. Maya straightened, composed. But the color had drained from it. She had come to watch her father establish a community fund. Instead, she was watching a stranger destroy his property. "I need security at the private services counter," she announced, though Andre Lewis was already standing less than 15 feet away. After Rebecca signaled with a glance, "Contact local police. We have a man refusing to leave after presenting a suspicious financial document." Marcus looked at her. Rebecca turned slightly into the receiver. "He is becoming confrontational." The word settled into the lobby with more force than the torn paper. He had not stepped toward her. He had asked her to call the issuing bank, return the check, or provide a written explanation for refusing the transaction. Each request had been recorded its own. As Claire Bennett, the teller who had been standing beside Rebecca, lowered her voice. It requested manual verification. Rebecca covered the phone with one hand. "Claire, step away from this transaction, but you never made the verification call. Step away." Claire did not move immediately, but Marcus noticed it. So did Rebecca. Her expression tightened before she turned back to the phone. "Security is present." Some recorded raised their phones. Others held them openly, at chest level, pretending to read messages while their cameras pointed toward Marcus. "And why not call the issuing bank? He has asked you 3 times. Rebecca did not look at her. "Fraud. Gat. Prevent fraud by checking." The woman replied. A faint foot murmur moved through the room. Rebecca's smile shifted. "Andre," she said, "escort Mr. Brooks out." Andre approached slowly, expression beside trolled but uneasy. He stopped beside Marcus, without touching him. "I need you to come with me." Marcus searched his face. Andre would not hold his gaze for long. The man did not believe he was dangerous. He simply believed refusing Rebecca might cost him more than obeying her. Rebecca lifted her chin. "She can remain here while officers speak with you." Marcus' eyes returned to her. For the first time something harder entered his voice. The sect. "My daughter leaves with me." Rebecca immediately raised the phone again. "His behavior is escalating." Maya drew in a slow breath. "Her fingers tightened. Didn't threaten you," she said. Andre finally placed a light hand near Marcus's elbow, then restraint. Marcus allowed himself to be led away from the counter, not because he accepted what she had done. He moved because Maya's breathing had changed, and protecting her mattered more than winning the next 30 seconds. They crossed the lobby beneath the gaze of customers who had found the courage to record, but not yet the courage to intervene. As they approached the glass doors, Maya looked back at the phones, the tellers, and the torn check sealed behind Rebecca's hand. She asked, "If nobody is going to tell her to stop?" No one answered. Andre slowed. Even Rebecca's expression shifted for a fraction of a second before hardening. Marcus reached the entrance. The automatic door's sedan stopped at the curb. At that exact moment, a silver in a charcoal suit stepped out, followed by an assistant carrying a leather portfolio marked with the Nordsch corporate seal. Was checking his watch. He was there for a scheduled meeting concerning an $800 million financing agreement, the largest pending partnership in the region. His gaze moved first to Andre's hand near Marcus's arm, then to Maya's pale expression, then to Rebecca behind the counter with the torn check sealed beneath her palm. The portfolio slipped slightly in his assistant's grip. Richard stopped. The room changed. Rebecca turned slowly, for uncertainty appeared in her eyes. Marcus faced the man who had come to for his signature, while Andre quietly removed his hand. Marcus Brooks had guided his old pickup into the Ashford Square parking lot and chosen a space near the far end, away from the polished sedans lined up beside the bank's entrance. The truck was clean, had been worn smooth beneath his hands, and a faint scratch ran along the passenger door where a grocery cart had struck it years earlier. But each time, he found replacing it sever the money. He shut off the engine and looked across the console at Maya, who was checking the zipper on her navy backpack. Stitched silver crossed the fabric, and one of the rings begun to loosen. Sagt Thurs, Bank Sirs, Museum, second, in their agreement. And you said the bank part would be quick. I did. Maya studied his face, as if checking whether the promise carried hidden conditions. Marcus had raised her alone for 7 years, long enough to know that she rarely accepted answer without examining the space around it. She noticed changes in tone, pauses before difficult truths, and the way adults sometimes used polite language to hide what they meant. But he taught her to pay attention. At 44, he had built a life that looked ordinary from the outside because ordinary was how he preferred it, was comfortable without being showy. He wore the same navy jacket through most of the fall and drove the same pickup he had owned before Horizon Ridge Partners occupied more than one rented room. People he had founded, Bubapt. Few knew he had founded the company or that it now invested in transportation networks, affordable housing, and regional development projects across several states. Marcus did not hide his success, refused to let money become the loudest fact about him. His father had spent 30 years that a person's character was easiest to see when nobody important was watching. Marcus had carried that lesson into every boardroom he entered. He greeted custodians by name, listened the curopath, and corrected executives who treated service workers as part of the furniture. Maya had heard the same principle in simpler words. The spect did not rise or fall with someone Smets's title. Represented $4 million, but Marcus did not sell of part of his ownership in a logistics company he had supported. It came and operated from a rented warehouse with 6 employees and 1 aging delivery van. And Marcus's had decided it was time to convert part of that investment into something more permanent. $2 million would be placed in the education and future planning account for Maya. The remaining $2 million would establish the Open Door Family Fund, designed to help single-parent households with tuitional counseling, professional trainings, and temporary family care expenses during periods of transition. Marcus wanted Maya beside Ford, because he wanted her to see that money could become more than comfort. 2 jobs. It could become a certification course, a stable apartment, or the ability to accept a better position without losing everything during the first month. Maya asked, "Someone asks you something and you want to answer. Only if someone asks the fund has that name." Marcus glanced at the bank's glass entrance. Maya straightened in her seat. A door should not only open for people who already know what is behind it. Marcus nodded, feeling a familiar pressure behind his ribs. She had said it casually 2 weeks earlier while helping him review names. He had written it down because it explained the purpose better than any consultant had. Checked that the original check, identification, transaction letter, and incorporation documents were inside, then stepped out of the truck, and the old jacket Maya had once asked him to replace. He had told her it still worked. That morning, it seemed like an unimportant choice. As they crossed the parking lot, Marcus noticed a temporary sign near the entrance welcoming investment clients to a private services presentation. A valet directed a silver luxury car toward the front row. Maya slipped her hand into his, releasing cool air and the muted sound of conversation. He was early for his business appointment. His documents were complete, and the deposit had been reported to the bank in advance. What he did not yet know was that Rebecca Harlan had already looked through the glass, seen his truck, his jacket, and his skin, and decided which kind of customer had just entered her branch. Had been arranged to impress. Fresh flowers stood framed photographs of the Belmont skyline, coffee steamed from a silver dispenser near the private services lounge, and 2 employees waited beside the entrance with tablets in hand. Mark's employer glanced at Marcus's jacket, then toward Rebecca Harlan, who stood near the center of the lobby reviewing a seating chart. Rebecca's eyes moved briefly from Mark and the Maya, then through the glass toward the pickup. Marcus noticed, but he did not stop. He had entered enough offices, hotels and conference centers to recognize the moment when someone tried to assign him a place before hearing his name. He also knew that not every delayed greeting carried a deeper meaning, not eager to accuse. He joined the short line near the reception, less than in a tailored gray suit, entered behind them. "Good morning, sir. Are you here for the investment presentation?" The man said he was, and a bottle of water was offered before his name was checked. They were invited to sit in the private appointment. They were invited to sit in the private lounge while an advisor became available. Maya followed them with her eyes, then looked at Cease around herself and Marcus. "Did they not see us?" she asked softly. "They may be busy," Marcus replied, neutral, though he was no longer certain he believed the explanation. When the reception employee finally approached, she did not ask Marcus whether he had an appointment. She pointed toward the standard teleker line at the rear of the lobby. "Deposits and withdrawals are handled over there." "I need to make a deposit. Open of corporate banking," Marcus said. The employee looked toward Rebecca again. Rebecca walked over with a smile that appeared practiced rather than welcoming. "Northbridge National. Yes, this is Northbridge. I'm asking whether you may have intended to visit another branch." "My appointment is here at Ashford Square." Rebecca's gaze lowered to the folder beneath his arm. "With whom?" "The corporate services team. The regional office also scheduled a meeting." Marcus took out his Northbridge card and identification. Rebecca accepted the card with 2 fingers. Her expression did not change, but she did not insert it into the reader. "Corporate clients usually enter through the business desk on the cast side." A small sign on the counter confirmed it. "Then you can wait until someone becomes available." "That is what I have been doing." The answer was calm, but Rebecca's smile narrowed. She handed the documents to Claire Bennett. "Run the card and confirm the account." Claire greeted Marcus by name after the profile appeared on her screen. She said, "Your account has been active since from corporate services." Rebecca leaned toward the monitor. "A scheduled high-value account request." Rebecca's eyes shifted to Marcus again. "I'll need another form of identification." Marcus looked at the license and bank card already on the counter. "For an unusual transaction, management may request further verification." "You have not seen the transaction yet?" Rebecca folded her hands. Marcus took out his passport card from the folder and placed it beside the other documents. She knew the standards lit procedure required 1 government-issued identification for an established customer, not 3 forms before the transaction had even been presented. She said nothing. But the pause was visible. Claire the information. Rebecca raised 2 fingers at Andre Lewis, the security officer near the lobby entrance. He did not approach the suited man in the private lounge, the couple speaking loudly near the coffee station, or the customer arguing about a wire fee. He positioned himself Maya. She moved closer to her father and held the strap of her backpack with both hands.
We're about...
Is there a concern? My daughter noticed that security moved closer when we came to the counter. Rebecca glanced at Andre, then back at Marcus. Andre remained still. Claire completed the identity check and returned the cards. Everything matches, she said. Mr. Brooks, what would you like to the folder? Rebecca's attention sharpened as he removed the check. The paper was issued by a national financial institution, payable directly Marcus Brooks, and accompanied by a transaction letter bearing the same reference number. Rebecca looked only at the amount, $4 million. Her gaze rose slowly from the number to Marcus's face, then moved past him toward the parking lot. Something was not surprise alone. It was the satisfaction of a suspicion she had formed before seeing any evidence. "Where did you get this?" she asked. Marcus did not answer immediately. He looked at the check, then at the identification and transaction letter arranged neatly on the counter. The issuing institutions is in the attached letter. Northbridge was notified yesterday. Rebecca's expression remained fixed. It came from the sale of an investment position. What kind of position? Private ownership in a logistics company. And you personally received $4 million? Marcus heard the emphasis she placed on personally, but clear enough that Claire lowered her eyes toward the screen. Yes, Marcus said. Rebecca picked up the check and held it closer to the light. She examined the routing information, but she did so with the posture of someone searching for confirmation rather than truth. Entered the FICE number. Entered the fire into the bank's verification system. It requires manual confirmation because of the amount, she said. Rebecca leaned closer. Claire did. Again. We can call the issuing bank through the number in our verified directory, Claire said. Includes a contact name. Not yet, Rebecca replied. I want to understand the circumstances. Marcus rested his fingertips against the counter. Rebecca ignored the suggestion. Do you do for Horizon Ridge Partners? I founded it. The answer changed Claire's expression, but Rebecca's face hardened. That is correct. Then why are you handling this at a branch counter instead of through private banking or an attorney? Because I have used Northbridge for 14 years, this branch was listed for the foundation account and your regional office transactions at the town. At this level arrive through established professional channels. Marcus looked toward the private lounge. With an advisor. You mean they arrive looking the way you expect them to look? Rebecca straightened. I mean follow recognizable patterns. This transaction was reported in advance. That turns like Hotch's toward Rebecca. Claire turned the monitor slightly to Rebecca. The note was entered yesterday by corporate services. It includes the amount. Rebecca barely incorrectly. Then call the department that entered it, Marcus said. His tone had not risen. Rebecca heard the change and treated it as evidence. I am asking your staff to perform the verification the system requires. I'm asking waiting lower the pressure you are placing on my staff. A mammers often nearby whispered to his companion to make employees less suspicious. Maya's shoulders drew inward. Maya's turned his head just far enough to identify the speaker, then returned his attention to Rebecca. He refused to give the stranger the reaction he seemed to want. Eleanor Parker, the older woman seated near the waiting area, did not show the same restraint. Then she addressed Rebecca. You have a phone, a verified number, and an account history. Rebecca's cheeks tightened. Mom, bank security procedures are more complex than they may appear from the lobby. Then explain the procedure, Eleanor said. A few heads turned. Rebecca set the check flat on the counter. It became everyone's business when you began questioning enough for the entire room to hear. Claire inhaled slowly, as though gathering courage. I recommend we complete the verification call. It should take less than 5 minutes. Rebecca turned toward her. The system directs us to confirm the issuing account. And branch management has discretion when circumstances are inconsistent. Marcus met Rebecca's eyes. Which circumstance is inconsistent? She opened her mouth, then hesitated. His identification matched the account. The deposit had been reported. No alert existed. Rebecca looked past the evidence and returned to the one detail she had never stated aloud. The overall presentation of the transaction. Marcus nodded once, not in agreement but recognition. You are not looking for proof that the check is valid. You are looking for language that will make your first assumption sound professional. That statement is confrontational. It is precise. She moved to the computer and opened the customer profile notes. Customer applying pressure during high-risk transaction. Security, presence escalation. You are creating a record after refusing the verification, Claire said quietly. Whose behavior? Claire asked. Rebecca looked at her with open warning. Return to your station. I'm de coincidental. Claire stepped back, but only far enough to place herself out of Rebecca's direct line of sight. She opened the internal account report. The transaction reference. The transaction amount, the manager's refusal to call the issuing institution, and the presence of security despite no documented threat. Her finger hovered by. Requested the check back. Across the counter, Rebecca placed her hand over it. Marcus extended his hand across the counter. Return the check. I will complete the transaction at another branch. Rebecca did not move her palm. The document I declined the method that would determine that. Your refusal to cooperate is increasing my concern. Marcus glanced at Claire. I provided 3 forms of identification: an account history, a transaction letter, and a verified contact. I have answered every for my property. Rebecca's nostrils flared slightly. You do not control the investigation. There is no investigation. There is only your refusal to verify. Policy does not allow us to retain an original check without creating a formal hold record. I told you to leave this transaction. I am explaining the document policy. You are challenging branch management in front of customers because the customer is asking a valid question. The lobby had grown quiet again. Rebecca seemed to feel every watching face, and that made her more careful. It made her more determined not to appear uncertain. She picked up a red review stamp and bumped it unevenly near the endorsement line and pressed it against the bull's check. Do not mark that document again. You do not give instructions to my branch. Then follow your own bank's instructions. For 1 second, neither of them moved. Rebecca pulled the check toward herself as Marcus reached to retrieve it, the paper bending between her fingers. A suspicious instrument classified as suspicious by your system. I am classifying it now. Claire stepped around the terminal. The use of her first name broke the last layer of professional restraint. Rebecca stared at Claire, then looked at Marcus. She folded the check trying to once, and tore it through the center. The sound cut across the center. One half remained in Rebecca's hand. The other slipped from the counter and landed near Maya's shoe. Maya bent instinctively, but Marcus placed a hand on her arm. He did not want her kneeling to recover what Rebecca had destroyed. Rebecca slid the pieces into a clear sleeve, but into the skin along her neck had reddened. This looked at her with a stillness that made her step back, before she could stop herself. You destroyed the evidence you refused to verify. Rebecca reached for the telephone. I am contacting law enforcement. Tell them the full sequence. She dialed without answering. Branch manager at Northbridge, Ashford Square. I have a man refusing to leave after presenting a suspicious $4 million check. Marcus spoke clearly enough for the call recording to capture him. The system issued the verification call. Rebecca turned her body away. He is becoming confrontational. Claire's face changed. Do not say that, she whispered. Rebecca continued. But he's resisting instructions. Estrats, Marcus looked around the lobby. He had not touched the counter since the check was torn. His voice had remained controlled. So his transformed his questions into pressure, his refusal to accept mistreatment into resistance, and his physical presence into danger. Anj's pace was slow, his shoulders stiff. He stopped beside Marcus. "Sir, I need you to come with me." "Do you believe I threatened anyone?" Marcus asked. "I need to follow the manager's direction." "That was not my question." Andre swallowed. "No, sir." Rebecca covered the receiver. "Andre, remove him from the lobby." Maya moved closer to Marcus. "She can remain here while officers speak with you." Marcus's composure did not break, but something protective and unmistakable entered his voice. Rebecca immediately returned to the call. "His behavior is family." Protecting family, louder this time. "I saw the entire exchange. I will give a statement." Several customers raised their phones. The band recording from behind a plant. Another customer stepped backward to create distance, though Marcus had made no movement toward anyone. Maya looked across the lobbyist. Her voice was quiet, but the silence carried it. Why are they recording if they are not going to tell her the question landed, where Marcus's arguments had not? Andre settling lightly against his sleeve. "Let us go outside," he said. Marcus nodded, because Maya's breathing had become shallow and uneven. And he gathered the document, foldy, a stoop. He come the pieces behind counter, and each step took him farther from the purpose that had brought him there, deeper into the role Rebecca had written for him. When the glass doors began to open, Richard Whitmore entered with an assistant, carrying the financing portfolio. He looked Brooks. "Mr. Brooks," he said. Andre removed his hand. Rebecca turned. For the first time since Marcus had entered the branch, she looked uncertain about who held the power in the room. Richard remained near the entrance, as though the rest of the lobby had Don Marcus had temporarily disappeared. They had spoken twice by documents. This was their first meeting in person. Richard had expected Marcus Brooks to be waiting in a conference room with attorneys and the financing team assigned to the largitude that year. He had not expected to find him beside a security officer, while his daughter struggled to steady her breathing. "What happened?" Rebecca came around the counter before Marcus could answer. "We intercepted a suspicious $4 million check. He refused to cooperate and would not leave when instructed." Richard looked past her toward Claire. Claire's expression gave him the first warning that Rebecca's account was incomplete. Rebecca lifted the clear sleeve. The presentation was inconsistent with a legitimate transaction. Richard's gaze dropped to the two torn halves. The measured control in his voice further review. "Hesitate. Did you contact the issuing institution?" "I exercised branch discretion." Richard turned to his assistant. The assistant placed the leather portfolio on a table and unlocked a tablet. Within seconds, the scheduled deposit appeared beside Marcus's name, along with the foundation document entered by the Corporate Services Department the previous afternoon. Richard read the screen, then looked at Rebecca. This payment face lost some of its color. That information was not presented clearly. Claire stepped forward. "It appeared on the account when I opened it. I showed her a warning look, but Claire did not step back. The issuing bank confirmed the release this morning. Corporate Services was instructed to complete secondary verification when Mr. Rebecca's answer came too quickly. Because nothing about the situation matched what we normally see with a transaction of this size." Marcus had remained silent until then. He looked at her across the lobby. "Say what did not match." Trying to recover the authority she had held minutes earlier. High net worth clients generally use bits matters are handled. "I arrived with identification, advance notice, and every document your bank requested," Marcus said. Rebecca glanced at his jacket before catching herself. The movement was brief, but Richard saw it. So did continues even. A different car. A different face. The lobby went quiet again. Richard looked toward Maya. I am sorry you had to stand here through this. Maya did not respond immediately. Presper, she studied him with apology was meant for her or for the room. Would you be sorry if you did not know who my father was, she asked. It was not the dramatic shock Rebecca had shown when his name was spoken. I should be, he said. And this bank should have acted correctly before anyone important walked through that door. Rebecca tried to interrupt. Marcus turned toward Richard. That is the problem. She believes protecting the bank and respecting me were opposite choices. Richard looked at Claire. Claire described the account note. Rebecca's the account note. The manual verification from the beginning. Claire described identification demands, the security signal, and the unsupported risk comments entered after Marcus requested his property back. When she mentioned the torn check, Claire moved between her and the keyboard. Do not change the file, she said. Compliance has already preserved the activity log. The words landed with unexpected force. Claire explained that she had submitted a priority report moments earlier. The system had automatically copied the customer notes. Richard's assistant confirmed that the compliance department had received it. The counter and held it out. Richard relieved of operationals card authority pending investigation. Rebecca looked at the card, then at the customers watching her. No, Richard said. No. I am looking at records. You'd not asked anyone to review this quickly. Marcus stepped closer, though he kept a respectful distance. Do not make this about the $800 million agreement. I deserved but what I could approve. Rebecca said nothing, reflected in the parking lot. Richard glanced toward the flashing lights, then back at the torn check. The police were about to enter based on Rebecca's of Marcus as a threat. This time, however, her version would have to compete with the evidence. Entered expecting a tense confrontation. Bassan. Instead, they found Marcus standing quietly beside Maya, while the branch manager who had called them was being denied access to her own terminal. Officer Daniel Reeve where they were while his partner separated as the witnesses. Marcus had presented a suspicious check, refused instructions, and caused employees to fear for their safety. Considered. Rebecca paused. His tone became aggressive. What words did he use? It was the manner in which he challenged my authority. Ruiz wrote something in his notebook. Did he threaten physical harm? He reached for the check. Claire spoke from several feet away. After he asked to see the check, the account record, and the lobby footage. Richard Claire showed the system message indicating manual verification rather than fraud. Eleanor Parker gave her statement without hesitation. She described refusal to make the unequal greeting, the repeated refusal to make the verification call, and the moment the check was torn. Andre confirmed that Marcus had never threatened direction, that he had followed Rebecca's direction, despite believing the situation did not justify removal. Rebecca's call had described Marcus as escalating before he raised his voice even once, stating that the system had issued no fraud alert. Ruiz closed his notebook yet. There is no basis to detain Mr. Rebecca's shoulders stiffened. You are ignoring the risk my staff faced. Ruiz looked around the calm lobby. Yours. Your staff has described a disagreement over a transaction and the destruction of a financial document. Marcus did not feel victorious. Victory suggested that something had been won. All he wanted at that moment, Maya away from the room where adults had turned his dignity into a matter requiring evidence. Marcus declined. Richard thanked Claire and Eleanor, then walked with Maya to the old pickup Rebecca had used as silent proof against him. During the drive home, Maya about the Science Museum or pizza. Marcus kept both hands on the wheel. He wanted to give her a not the shape of the morning. But some experiences could not be folded back into their original form. "Did she think you stole the money?" Maya finally asked. "She decided the money could not belong to me before she checked." Marcus took a breath. The truck was part of the story, she told herself. Maya looked down. What was the other part? Marcus did not answer immediately. People carry expectations about black men, can affect what they notice, what they fear, and what they choose to believe. Maya nodded slowly. "Mr. Whitmore knew my name." That answer stayed between them until they reached home. By evening, a 30-second video from the lobby had appeared online. It showed Rebecca tearing the checker, Maya bending toward the fallen paper, Marcus security approaching while he stood still. The clip did not include the $800 million that was necessary. It spread because none of that was necessary. Viewers saw a black customer provide documents, request verification, and receive suspicion instead of service. Former North of Bridge customers began contacting the station. A black restaurant owner said his business account had been frozen after a routine cash deposit, forcing him to delay payroll. A nurse described being asked to prove trail closing documents. A retired service member said security had followed him from the entrance to the teller counter when he withdrew money for a home repair. But the complaints kept arriving. Compliance investigators found 9 prior reports from the Untry Ashford Square branch within 18 months, from lower-income neighborhoods. Several had been closed without reviewing camera footage. Others were dismissed using phrases such as behavior inconsistent with profile and considerate triste concerns. The words sounded neutral until investigators compared who received them, while Maya worked quietly nearby. He had wanted to believe Rebecca was a single manager whose judgment had failed. She had offered a harder truth, that had learned how to hide equal treatment beneath professional language. 3 days later, 2 North carrying a settlement proposal. It offered an apology, compensation, and confidentiality. The bank was prepared to acknowledge one terrible morning. It was not yet prepared to acknowledge the pattern that had made that morning possible. Its first page described the incident. Its first page as an unfortunate service failure. Its final pages required Marcus to stop discussing internal records and proceed with the $800 million under Northbridge's original schedule. In return, the bank offered financial compensation, reimbursement of legal expenses, a public apology, and that disciplinary action would be taken against employees found responsible. Bakaler presented the offer, with the calm confidence of people who believed her conflict eventually to become a number, explained that the agreement would protect Maya from additional attention. "The story is expanding beyond your control," he said. "A private resolution would allow your family to move forward." Marcus sat across from him without opening the pen placed beside the document. Thomas glanced at his colleague. The attorney's expression remained neutral. For everyone involved, Marcus turned several pages. It admitted that the experience had fallen below its standards, but did not acknowledge racial bias, a pattern of unequal review, or the earlier complaints. Rebecca's actions appeared as a personal failure. "Detached, you are offering to apologize for one morning," Marcus said. "The broader review is ongoing." "Then why does this agreement prevent me from asking how broad it becomes?" Thomas leaned forward. "Mr. Brooks, this is a substantial offer. Accepting it would not prevent the bank from improving. It would prevent the public from knowing whether you did." The attorneys left without his signature. "It's a goat." Marcus. He sat alone at the kitchen table after Maya had gone to bed and studied the document again. Protect his family from prolonged attention and end a dispute that would otherwise consume months. Accepting money was the silent institutions had every right to seek compensation. The problem was the silence attached to it. Would they have believed you if Marcus in that his influence had created an opening? Marcus understood that hissed himself to decide alone what should pass through it. 2 days later, he invited community center. Claire attended after her shift. Andre came in plain clothes and sat near the back she had made in the incident. Marcus also invited several customers whose complaints had been reopened: a consumer rights attorney, 2 single parents, a neighborhood business owner, and a financial counselor, Hugh. He began by releasing a settlement document in the compensate me, he said. Before I decide what to ask for, I need to understand what they failed to give everyone else. The restaurant losing access to payroll funds for 6 days because a manager considered his cash deposits inconsistent with his profile. A nurse said she had changed the way she dressed before visiting a branch because she was tired of being questioned, as though professional clothing were another form of identification. A woman named account freeze that delayed payment for her mother's medical transportation. No single story looked dramatic in isolation. Together, they formed a pattern to prove not only that their money was legitimate, but that they were the kind of people allowed to possess it, until the others had spoken. I knew Mr. Brooks was not a threat, he said. I also knew Rebecca could remove me from the schedule. I told myself I was keeping the situation calm, but the truth is I was waiting for someone authority to give me permission to do what I already knew was right. Claire looked toward him. I saw the extra identification request. I saw security move closer. I kept hoping the next step would be where I finally had to speak. By the time I did, the check was already in her hands. Marcus listened without turning their admissions into accusations. Responsibility is not useful if it ends with shame, he said. The group worked for hours. They rejected demands designed only to punish in rights, evidence protection, independent but-teened employee safeguards, security training, and public reporting. Thousands of jobs and several housing projects depended on it. Instead, he would suspend approval and give Northbridge a choice: accept measurable reform or lose the partnership. The following morning, he sent the bank a new proposal. Bank no legal language. Respect cannot remain of benefit reserved for customers whose importance is already known. The Northbridge board expected Marcus to demand a larger payment. Instead, his proposal something it guarded more carefully than money: control over how its own conduct would be measured. Any customer whose transaction was questioned employee could request review by a second employee before an account was frozen, a document was retained, or security was called. The second, permanently marking or withholding original financial documents without a formal record and approval from compliance. Compare waiting times, identification requests, account restrictions, security calls, and complaint outcomes across racial and economic groups. Customers using specific facts, rather than phrases such as unusual presentation or inconsistent behavior. Employees who challenged questionable decisions would be protected from reduced hours, poor evaluations, and retaliation by security grace personnel. And they would have written authority to refuse instructions unsupported by policy. The final condition created a community advisory councils and the right to publish its own findings. Several directors treated the proposal as an overreaction. One executive described the incident as the failure of a single manager at a single branch. Marcus placed separate open complaints on the table. How many separate incidents does it take before separation becomes the excuse? He asked. The conduct already exists, Marcus replied. The data only determines whether you're willing to see it. Richard Whitmore sat near the head of the table. For most of his career, he had believed that a strong compliance failures before they reached customers. How easily a system could appear orderly had shown him while repeatedly dismissing the same group of people. Trekked the banks to examine what could damage it, he said. That did not protect the institution. Ow. The discussion lasted nearly 5 hours. The board attempted the to the Belmont area, remove public reporting, and replace the independent counsel with an internal committee. Marcus phased implementation, provided every deadline was written, and every delay required public explanation, until the first verification protections and evidence rules were active. By the end of the week, Northbridge accepted the conditions. The announcement did customers agree resolved. At his insistence, it acknowledged that the bank's systems had produced unequal experiences, and that previous reports had not been investigated adequately. What's path? Rebecca's employment ended, that she had ignored verification procedures, entered unsupported risk notes, damaged customer property, and omitted key facts from her police call. She was not instantly banned from the financial industry, and Marcus did not ask that her life be destroyed. Her professional record would reflect the findings, and the civil case Becuras would proceed through the appropriate process. Accountability, Marcus believed, should be Claire was promoted to customer service supervisor and assigned to help design the new reporting channel. She accepted independent review above branch management. Andre completed additional training and later helped create a protocol allowing security officers to document and decline unsupported removal requests. When he apologized to Subbles, he did not ask to be forgiven immediately. "I knew you were not dangerous," he said. "I was more afraid of losing my job than I was of helping someone lose his dignity." Then used the job to make the public apology himself. Richard issued the public apology incident as inconsistent with the bank's values, because Marcus had objected to that familiar phrase. During a crisis, Marcus had told him, "They are what its ordinary procedures allow on an ordinary day." The replacement check arrived by secured delivery in a private executive office. He returned to the community center with recepts from the reopened complaints, the financial counselor, Claire, and members of the new advisory council. Established the Open Door Family Fund. The remaining amount was placed in Maya's protected account according to the original plan. No celebration check had been destroyed, but the money now carried a purpose Rebecca had failed to understand. It was not proof that Marcus belonged at the counter. It was not proof meant to keep opportunity from being limited to people already recognized as important. Marcus decided to test whether the reforms worked. When no camera on the same nave jacket, started the same old pickup and drove Maya Packet the back to Ashford Square without notifying anyone. The pickup entered the Ashford Square lot on a Tuesday morning. No preferred presentation was scheduled. No reporters waited near the entrance, and Richard Whitmore did not know Marcus was coming. That was exactly why Marcus had chosen the day. Maya the planet-covered backpack, though the loose thread around Saturn, had finally been repaired. Marcus wore his faded navy jacket, but Marcus wore his treated those ordinary details as evidence that he did not belong. He wanted to know whether the branch had learned to stop asking appearance to answer questions that facts could settle. A receptionist looked up immediately. "Good morning, welcome to Northbridge. How can I help you?" She did not recognize Marcus. Her expression did not change when she saw the jacket, the work boots, or the old truck beyond the glass. Marcus said they were there to review a foundation account. She asked whether he preferred the business desk or a private room, then explained the expected wait for each. Near the entrance, a large display listed customer rights in direct language. Anyone asked for additional verification could request a second review. Original documents could not be altered or retained without a written record. Complaints could be submitted through a code linking to an independent office rather than branch management. The private lounge had also changed. On 2 days each week, part of the space now hosted free final planning sessions for neighborhood residents and small business owners. Marcus and Maya finished another appointment. Before she noticed them, a black woman, a cashier's check from the sale of a family property. Marcus watched closely. The teller did not raise her voice or announce the value. She invited the woman to sit, explained that the amount required confirmation, and showed her the written steps. "You may request a second employee to view Guast institution Through our verified directory. Your original document will remain you authorize otherwise, the woman nodded. Which employee joined the review without security moving closer. Simmons, the issuing bank, confirmed the check. The teller completed the deposit and thanked her for waiting. The woman left with her dignity intact, unaware that the man in the old jacket across the lobby had suspended an $800 million action. Reform was easy to describe during a press conference. Its meaning appeared in moments no one considered important enough to record. Surprise crossed her face, followed by a careful smile. You did not tell us you were far coming. That was the point, Marcus said. His posture was different now. He no longer watched Marcus as an assignment. He greeted him by name, then asked Maya about the repaired planet on her backpack. Maya showed him the stitching with quiet pride. Had begun accepting applications the previous month. Temporary, coincidental, Yao. Career training, temporary the Spotoid transitioned. In the mail Trimus Condert to Denise Carter, who was completing a medical technology certification while caring for her mother. The amount was modest, would be measured rather than the dollars, but Mark's choice to attend class, accept a new position, or remain in stable housings during a difficult month, led them into the conference room where the foundation account had originally been conference open. A framed statement from the Community Advisory Council who hung on the wall. A spect should never require proof of wealth. No photograph of Marcus appeared, that suggestion. The FALA policy was not meant to honor him. It was meant to function when nobody knew his name. Marcus and Maya walked through the lobby toward the exit. Maya looked back at the rights display, then at the counter where the woman in medical scrubs had been served. Do you think it is fixed now for her? No system is fixed forever. People have to keep doing what it promised. Outside, the pickup waited in the same distant space. Maya asked, Then why do you still look down at the faded sleeve? Because people should learn to see the person before they search for a price tag. Maya considered that answer as they crossed the lot. A bank could replace a mana check. Policies could be rewritten, and signs could be displayed. Trust returned more slowly. A person without wealth or a powerful name received the same patience that important customers expected without asking. A door was not truly open because it allowed Marcus knew who he was. It was open when nobody had to prove they mattered before being treated as though they did. If this story changed how you about responsibility, subscribe for more. Tell us which moment stayed with you most and where you are watching from.